Hello everyone, welcome. Jenny Ponzeric here. Thank you all for listening. Wanted to chat today about kind of a continuation of a conversation I started a couple weeks ago when we were talking about some different tips on explaining evaluation results. And so for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jenny Ponzeric, background in the amazing field of school psychology. I've been part of this field, helping to support students and schools for over 20 years. I do a lot of trainings nowadays, and I am also the founder of the Prepared School Site community, as well as PSW Monthly, two online platforms to help support school psychologists. One of the things that I love talking about is some different ways we can improve the way that we are explaining results. Now, some of you are already awesome. You're already awesome. But a lot of us feel like we need to improve upon this. I always try and think about how can my verbal explanations be even more helpful to families. And part of that really has to do with jargon. We know that in the field of special education, we have so much jargon. We just have so much jargon when we think about, all the different parts of our paperwork and all of those different kind of pieces. But especially when we start talking about evaluation results, it can be really easy to get into the jargon, whether we're talking about words like fluid reasoning or conceptualization or standard scores or clinically significant. These are words that are very familiar to us in the field. And so when we're talking to colleagues, we can throw out words like that and everyone else understands what we're talking about. And when things are very new to us, we tend to rely a lot on jargon because we're not quite ready yet to explain it in other terms, right? Or we have a definition for some of our words, but we're really concerned someone might ask for a different definition, right? Or an additional explanation. And we're like, nope, I only have one definition of this word, right? So let's talk about jargon for a moment, because I think it has its place, but I think there's some different ways that we can also improve upon our results when we're thinking about how we're explaining information so that families understand better, so that our students understand better, those that are attending our meetings, as well as for general education to understand, the implications of our findings. And so, one of the things I talk about, because I love talking about this topic with other school psychologists, is, we have a lot of resources mostly on our bookshelves and in our computer to help us with some different definitions for some of our terms, right? Most of us, I think we should have a contest one day on how many essentials books we all have in our offices, right? So many of us have all these books and grad schools make us buy them. And I don't know how often do we go to them, right? But that is definitely a go-to place. A lot of our essentials books, when I think about essentials of learning disabilities, essentials of processing assessment, essentials of cross battery, when I think about a lot of our cognitive processing jargon, those are some great books that have a lot of different ways to explain things, right? They have multiple definitions for some of our terms and have some really great ways to explain exactly how does that show up in the classroom, right? It's one thing to explain what fluid reasoning is or how your students' scores in fluid reasoning were, but at the end of the day, what does that really matter, right? How is this helping the student in the school setting, or how is this making things maybe a little bit more difficult for the student because they're struggling in some of these aspects. A lot of people are using AI nowadays for a lot of different parts of our field. And I think this is one area that can be really helpful when we think about, I'm obviously picking on fluid reasoning today, to be able to ask ChatGPT or Google Bard or whatever Google Bard's new name is, what's another way to explain fluid reasoning? Or what's a parent-friendly way to explain fluid reasoning, right? I think, I'm definitely not in any place where I'm asking AI to write my report for me, but it can definitely help me when I'm kind of stuck and how else can I explain this, right? Or giving a prompt of, how does fluid reasoning show up for a 10th grader or a 4th grader in reading and math and writing? We can be really specific in some of our prompts for those of you who are exploring AI. And one of the things I try and do when I'm verbally explaining my results is really try and shy away from a lot of jargon. But there is one instance where I think using jargon alongside with a parent-friendly explanation can be useful. And that has to do with, I'm going to give an example of like a learning disability. If I were to say to a parent that your child's difficulty in learning was because of fluid reasoning, I would probably want to use, sometimes what I'll call the fancy word or the jargony word. At some point, I do want to share that. It makes me like, I use this analogy sometimes because it helps me. I think about like when I go to the doctor and maybe I'm reviewing my yearly blood results or something, right? I am hoping that my doctor is going to explain any results that are fine in a very super Jenny friendly way, right? Like this is just super easy. Let me just kind of explain to you what I found here. But if there was a particular area that we needed to monitor or something that I maybe need to be concerned about, I would hope my doctor would give me the fancy word for it, right? Because what do I want to do? I want to go home and Google that and I want to put that in WebMD, right? Like all of us want to do and none of our doctors want us to do. But I think if it's that particular area of concern, I'd want to know what that jargony word is, but I really would like it, the person who's explaining to me that word and introducing that word, to then explain it to me in a very parent-friendly way, or my doctor to explain something in a very Jenny-friendly way. But that's what I think about. That would be a place where I'd want to use that word out loud. But maybe all the things that were okay, maybe we can just talk about that in a much more parent-friendly way. So as I mentioned, I've done these trainings before. I've done these trainings in my summer boot camp. I've done these trainings for district trainings, and some of you have heard me talk about this topic, and I'm going to be doing this topic upcoming. Like on Monday. On Monday, I am talking about explaining results succinctly. And one of the things, because I've done this training before, and I know some of you listening have heard me do this training before, I wanted to add some extra things to this training. Because a lot of times I will give examples of, hey, let's not use jargon very much. And that makes sense, but I think for a lot of people, they're like, could I have a very specific example? Could you share with me, like, how could I explain results in that kind of way? What are some other possibilities there? And so that's what I'm going to be doing on Monday. So on Monday from 12 to 2 Pacific Standard Time, I'm doing a 2-hour training that if you are not yet signed up, you can just go to my website, jennyponzurek.com, head over there, sign up for the training. That's on Monday. And if you're like, I cannot show up, I have 9 million kids to evaluate on Monday. We record everything and you have access to the replays. But part of the things that I did to prepare for this training is I actually did some recording of explaining results. It's hard for me in the middle of a training to just switch from I'm presenting and sharing information to you, and now let me go into like IEP mode. So I decided to pre-record them so I could just be in IEP mode. So I'm going to be sharing those on Monday. And if you think that might be helpful for you, as I mentioned, you can still sign up for that training. You can sign up for that training Monday morning if you're listening to this whenever you are. And if you think that's going to help you out, I'd invite you to come hang out with us. So it's Monday, February 26th from 12 to 2. And then we do like a 30-minute Q&A session at the end so that we have about 2 hours. So we may make sure we get through the content, but then to have that extra time to go through anyone's particular questions. And if that's something that you think could help you out, especially as we're about to go into March, which we know is about ready to start, a very busy time of the year for people who work in special education. And if you're like, we don't have time to talk on and on and on about our results, and we need to figure out how to do this in a succinct manner, I'd invite you. And if you have some other team members that you think might benefit from this as well, I will tell you in this training series that we're doing, we have, in addition to school psychologists, we have speech and language pathologists who are showing up. We have ed specialists who are showing up. And so my examples are not just for the school psychs, but they're for all the different assessment team members. So if you have some other people on your team that you think might benefit from maybe listening to the replay, tell them about this training. They are welcome to sign up as well. If you have any questions about that training, feel free to reach out to us. Just head over to my website at jennypunzurek.com, and there's a place to ask questions. Either myself or someone on my team would be happy to answer those questions for you. Otherwise, good luck as we are all continuing to explore how to explain our results in a parent-friendly way, in a succinct way, but also not using too much jargon. So I hope to see you on Monday. And if not, I hope your Monday goes really, really well. And I will see you all another time. Bye, everyone.